Steve Clarke will proudly lead his Scotland team to America, Canada, and Mexico for next summer's World Cup. But one man that is trying to sneak his way in, possibly through the back door, is none other than Harvey Barnes. And as far as I'm concerned, this guy can piss off. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Football. A little bit of Scotland news to discuss today. We've got Steve Clarke come out and basically say that he is now open to staying on. It looked like this was going to be his last campaign. It was pretty much done. He was going to leave in the summer of next year if we got to the World Cup, and possibly leave earlier than that if we failed and lost in the playoffs. But now Steve Clarke has come out. He said that he's open to anything. There was talk of him returning to club football, but now he's claimed that he is open to an extension. Now, I don't know if I want that extension or not, as good as he's done. 3 tournaments, that's great. But I think this might be the ultimate high for Steve Clarke. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen in the World Cup, but can Clarke do better than this? I'm not sure. He's already qualified for both European competitions that he's attempted to. He's qualified for a World Cup now. What more is there for Steve Clarke to do? Yes, he could take us to a tournament and win a game. He's not done that yet. 6 attempts, no wins. He could be the first man to get us out of a group stage, but I just feel like he's done enough. I think Steve Clarke has done enough. If he leaves after the World Cup, even if we do poorly at the World Cup, I still think he'll go down as a Scotland legend, because he did get us to 3 tournaments after we had over 2 decades of getting to absolutely nothing. So he does deserve credit. He gets credit, but I think now might be a good time for Steve Clarke to, call it a day. Not right now, but after the World Cup. Now, who knows? If he wins the World Cup, then we'll probably want to offer him a lifetime contract. But I think win, lose or draw, group stage, last 16, whatever, I think after the World Cup would probably be the right time for Steve Clarke to go, you know what, I've took Scotland as far as I can. I've had a lot of success. It's probably time for me to move on, because I wouldn't like him to stay on after the World Cup and then maybe he has a really poor Euros, and for the first time he doesn't qualify for the European Championships, and then maybe he stays on after that and he doesn't qualify for the World Cup, or even if he failed to qualify for the next Euros and then left after that, you'd have a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth. So it's always kind of good to leave rather than people wanting you to leave. Some guys just don't know when to call it a day, whether it be through retirement or just longevity at a club. Some people overstay their welcome. And I think that this is going to be the perfect ending to Steve Clarke's Scotland career. Get us to the World Cup, and whatever happens, happens. Hopefully we can win a game. Hopefully we can create history and get... people debate whether he's the greatest manager in Scotland history. I'm not sure I would agree with that just yet. But what I can say is, if he takes us to the World Cup, if we get out of the World Cup group stage, then he has to go down as the best, because that would be 3 tournaments out of 4 he's qualified for, and it would be the first time that we've ever got out the group stage. So if Steve Clarke can do that, then by all means, I will call him the greatest Scotland manager of all time. As of right now, though, I would say he's pretty high up. He's got to be. Come on, there's not that many. He has to be in the, top 5, top 3 at this moment in time. I would have to put him somewhere up there. But anyway, speaking of Steve Clarke, we had the SFA CEO come out. Forgot what I was going to call him there. I was going to call him a prick or something. I don't know. The SFA CEO Ian Maxwell has come out and he has discussed Steve Clarke and his future contract talks. He says, quote, "It's ironic that there's a contract extension conversation when just after the Euros, a lot of the country wanted his contract to be ended at that point. We're just enjoying the moment, reveling in the fact that we're there. We've got all these conversations to have. We've got all the preparation to get through, and that's got to be the focus at the moment. We've genuinely not discussed it. It's all been focused on getting to the World Cup." He was very clear that that was an ambition, particularly when we've done back-to-back Euros, obviously. The World Cup was the one missing, and he and his squad have been very focused on getting there. And there has been genuinely no discussion about anything other than let's get there. And now we'll focus on making it as good as we can. End of quote. So, yeah. Will he stay now that they're there? We'll have to wait and see. He might not. If he leaves, then he's done a great job. If he stays, then I guess I'm excited to see what else he can do in the future. But I think that a lot of this squad, their shelf life could be coming to an end. Maybe it's time that Steve Clarke bows out with them. And I'm not saying that I want Robertson or McGinn or any of those guys to leave after the World Cup. I'm not saying that, but Robertson, realistically, does he have the 2030 World Cup in him? I don't know. Does McGinn have the 2030 World Cup in him? I don't know. We know that Kenny McLean surely doesn't. Grant Hanley surely doesn't. I know Craig Gordon refuses to retire, but surely he's not got another World Cup in him. So, I think a lot of this current Scotland squad will not see another World Cup, and maybe it's just right. It could be the perfect time for Steve Clarke and a lot of his key players that he's had in his team over the past 6 years. Maybe it's time for them to leave together. But anyway, not really worried about it. We'll go to the World Cup and we'll see what happens. And yeah, then if Steve Clarke wants to stay, I think he's earned the right. Even though over the past year I have been a bit more critical of him, I've always loved Steve Clarke. I've always thought he was the man. I praise him so much for what he did in that season at Kilmarnock, both seasons at Kilmarnock. I thought he was absolutely sensational. I've always praised him at Scotland. The last year, my patience has ran out, to be honest, and I'm not going to lie, this qualifying campaign for the World Cup, I was depressed watching Scotland. I think that performance-wise, outside of the opening Denmark game, which, let's be honest, we weren't good in, but neither were they, I think it's been some of the poorest Scotland performances that I've seen in a long, long time. But we've somehow won enough games. I look at the first game against Greece, no way did we deserve to win that 3-1. The games against Belarus were pretty poor. I thought we were lucky to win both of them. And that Denmark game, like at the hour mark, they had 17 shots to our 1. That's 17 shots I think they had to our 1. That's embarrassing. And yes, we won, and I'm grateful we won, and I'm not putting a downer on it. But holy fuck, we won because of, let's be honest, 3 moments of brilliance that you just don't see every game. But we didn't win because we played amazing. And that's not me being negative. That's not me being critical. That's not me bashing Steve Clarke. That's not me being less of a Scotland fan. It's just me being honest and telling the truth. We, performance-wise, weren't great in that Denmark game. And let's say we didn't win that. Let's say those goals don't go in. Majority of the people here, demanding Steve Clarke walks right now. So, yeah, I'm happy that we won, obviously, but I'm not going to lie. I'm intelligent enough to be able to watch a game of football and determine if we played well or not, if we were good or not, and we just weren't good over this last qualifying campaign. We simply weren't. So, yeah, I'm not going to talk about it or be too negative on it anymore, but just wanted to point that out there that I don't think we were good this campaign. I think it's weird. I think this campaign, I'd say collectively, this is probably the worst we've performed under Steve Clarke in a qualifying campaign. I would say this has been our worst. Out the 4 that he's had, I think this was our worst one, but it's the one that's taken us to the World Cup, so that's kind of insane. But, yeah, sometimes that happens in football. Anyway, as for who shouldn't be going to the World Cup, it's none other than Harvey Barnes. Now, he's been asked over the last 24 hours since Scotland qualified, are you interested in going? Are you interested in changing your allegiance and all that stuff? And the answer he should be given is no. I picked England. I'm English. That's it. I don't want this guy sneaking in the back door. I personally don't give a fuck how good he is. I think he's an okay player. I think he would do well in a Scotland squad. I think that we're actually probably we're very limited, I think, on players that can play in the Harvey Barnes role, but I don't care. I don't care if Harvey Barnes had the ability of prime Lionel Messi. I don't want him for the simple reason is he had the chance to play for Scotland. He turned us down. Now, that's one thing. You can turn Scotland down, and that's, to me, you shouldn't get another chance. But he turned Scotland down and chose to play for England. That is the ultimate sin. There's no way this guy should be asked to play for Scotland. I don't give a fuck how good he is, and I'll lose respect if Steve Clarke does reach out and asks him I want Steve. If Steve Clarke asks him to be in the team, then I don't think Steve Clarke personally should go to the World Cup because Harvey Barnes doesn't deserve to be anywhere near it. Unless, of course, he gets picked for England, then so be it. But he shouldn't be going. No way should Harvey Barnes be going in place of somebody else. He can't take a Scotsman's place on that plane after he has turned us down as a nation and decided that he's going to play for England. Absolutely not. But when he was asked on if the door has been closed on playing for Scotland, he told Sky Sports, quote, "No, of course it's not. I've obviously played for England. I know the eligibility side is still there, so it's hard to say either way. But like I said, there's been no real chats or any sort of progression in that sense. It's not something I've really put too much thought into. There's always been some sort of talk about it, especially recently. It's not something that's been on my mind, nothing that's really been spoke about. It was great seeing them get to the World Cup. It was a crazy game." End of quote. Yeah, he can back off. This guy should not be coming in the Scotland team. I don't know how you guys feel on that, but he chose to play for England. He turned us down. That's absolutely fine. The guy had the eligibility to pick for, either Scotland or England. In my opinion, regardless of what he picked, he's English anyway. So I actually agree with him for picking England. I've no issues with him picking England. I personally don't really want English-born players in the Scotland team. Lyndon Dykes, I preferably would rather not have him in the Scottish team because he's Australian. But they're in there, so I'm not going to, they chose to play for Scotland, so whatever. Even Russell Martin, he chose to play for Scotland even though he's English, so whatever. But I'm not having someone who turns down Scotland to play for England and then tries to sneak back into the team because he figures that he's not good enough to go to the World Cup via the England squad, so he's going to try and do it in the Scotland squad. Absolutely fuck off. Not a chance. Not a chance. So, listen, I've nothing against Harvey Barnes apart from these comments here. In my opinion, he should be a man and he should show his patriotism and say, nah, I decided to play for England. I'm English. There's no way I'm going to the World Cup with Scotland. But the fact that he's talking about possibilities and being eligible, that tells me he's waiting for the call. That tells me that he wants Steve Clarke to approach him. And I can't respect that. So, yeah, for me, Harvey Barnes, I don't give a shit how good he is. This guy should not be coming to the World Cup as part of the Scotland team. Let me know what you guys think, guys, in the comments down below here. I'm getting a bit frustrated talking about Harvey Barnes possibly playing for Scotland. It would piss me off. And I'm sure it would piss off some Scotland players because somebody would then miss out because of him. So, you know what I mean? It's not right. Anyway, guys, that's it. Leave a like, leave a comment. I'll catch you in the next one. Subscribe. And until next time, peace.